All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the first ever Donate Yoga podcast. Mark Gregory here with the wonderful Monet Delbo. Monet, thank you for being here and for joining me on this mission to bring the teachings of Donate Yoga to the podcast world.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this and just feeling so grateful for this opportunity to share yoga and make it more accessible to everyone.
Oh,
Aho.
so let's go ahead and jump right into our interview questions. So you get to be the lead MC
All
on
right,
this
Mark.
first one.
So, recently you've embarked on this online teacher training journey, and within that, you have welcomed quite a large group of returned Peace Corps volunteers. Um, how have you made that available? Like, how is Donate Yoga able to provide this training to returned Peace Corps volunteers?
Well, that's a very good question. I believe that the more I give, that I will be provided for and I will receive what I need to help in that endeavor. And thankfully, my living costs are very low. I live very modestly. And there are some very great, wonderful people here on the island of Maui who uh, really resonated with the mission of Donate Yoga and were kind enough to welcome me into their community and allow us, Donate Yoga, to utilize their space, like this temple, to record the teacher trainings and host the live Zoom meetings. And it's also wonderful to be able to utilize Zoom in this method and I guess framework where we can have all the students from across the country. We have about 15 to 20 students each day. And it's really wonderful because I don't know if we could afford to give scholarships to 12 Peace Corps volunteers if we were at a eco retreat in Maui with all the food provided like we normally do for 30 days. And so right now with lower costs and the beauty of people connecting via internet, it's been very easy to do actually.
That's awesome. I like how all just kind of came together. For those of you listening, I am also a part of the online teacher training. I'm a current student of Mark's. And yeah, I've found the ability to connect with people from all over just through Zoom and through something so powerful like yoga to be just an amazing experience and really important for not only my physical health, but my mental health right now. So really appreciate you and what Donut Yoga is doing for so many people right now.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with that, how did you get the idea to reach out to the Return Peace Corps volunteers?
For the past about 6 months, I had developed a program that I wanted to create where I would go to Peru actually, because that's where I was a Peace Corps volunteer originally. And I wanted to go train Peace Corps volunteers in their sites and then help them to actually develop yoga programs within their sites and get funding and grants to create these sustainable yoga programs in their communities so that the key community members could learn how to teach yoga and teach the other members of their family and community. And it just wasn't able to manifest quite yet. And then when I learned from a friend that all of I think it's around 7,000 Peace Corps volunteers were being evacuated from their sites and sent home into quarantine, my heart just broke imagining myself being in that position, how excited I was to go to another country and become a community member and be received by these wonderful people in another country to then get plucked out and dropped in quarantine. And it was just instantly that I knew, well, this is it. I have to offer this yoga teacher training to them and online. It just click, click, click. It happened very fast. And I tried a couple email threads and tried to go through people who were probably very busy within the Peace Corps organization doing very important work, like bringing the volunteers home safely. And then I was able to find some emails of some of the volunteers, and I just emailed them directly and said, hey, here we are. We would love to offer you a training. Let me know if you're interested. I went for a walk and came back an hour later, and voila, we had 10 or 15 people already responding saying they were ready to go. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know what I was asking for. So it was
That's
really cool how it came
amazing.
together. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I thought they had reached out to you, you know, but I think that's amazing that you were able to just come up with that. And I think that's just such a huge part of the mission of Donut Yoga. Um, and those ideas are so important. So good on you, Mark. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you. And some of the volunteers did reach out to their friends. So I did get emails from other people who I didn't write to. And they said, hey, my friend so-and-so told me you're offering this training. I'm super interested. So that, and then it just kept growing.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Yeah, I've really enjoyed being a part of a class with all those returned Peace Corps volunteers. They just have so much to offer, and you can tell in the class how much it means to them to be a part of this. Like we've just had a lot of honesty and breakthroughs, I think, within ourselves as a unit and a class together. So I really enjoyed that.
Wonderful. And I want to bring awareness to it also is really important to have wonderful students like you who were in a financial position to share some abundance with us because we do have some expenses. And for you to so graciously come into the classroom and be right on par with our other students and be okay with them receiving scholarships, knowing that your contribution is huge for helping us to stay alive and to provide these trainings because there are web cameras and internet services that needed to be purchased. So you are absolutely an integral part as well. And the other people who have donated to us along the way. So it's very much a big global community. We're all doing our part together, whatever that may look like. And I think everybody's contribution is equally important.
Well, thank you, Mark. It was kind of a miracle for me when you reached out and asked if I was interested because we had attempted to get me in for that Maui training in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I found out I was expecting and had a baby who's in the room next door with dad. So now that you did this yoga training, it's available to even more people like me who has to be home right now. Well, everyone has to be home right now, but even before the pandemic, I was really wanting to do but my first yoga training. And to have that available was just amazing. So happy to help, happy to be with everyone and share the love. So with sharing the love and making yoga more accessible to everyone, what do you think that Western gyms and yoga studios need to do in order to make yoga more accessible to people who would really greatly benefit from it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it really starts at the foundation, I think, of our core values as a society, because maybe some people feel like a monthly uh, yoga membership is very expensive. And the yoga studios have a lot of overhead and expenses too. And so they have so much they need to pay in order to stay alive. And there's not as much to then share with their teachers. And so it's been a very difficult time for a lot of teachers to quote unquote make a living as a teacher. And I have witnessed several teachers struggling trying to teach many classes a day across the city and traveling and being stressed out. And so I think it comes down to us as a collective unit to make the decision that maybe we are willing to spend more money on our health and wellness and for people who may feel, and I used to be ingrained this way, that oh, $150, $100 for a gym membership or yoga membership, what? That's crazy. But if I look back on how much I spend on gas or clothes or going out to a bar or snacks, maybe I could pull away some of those and have more money to essentially support and let the yoga teachers and wellness providers know that I appreciate what they're doing. With COVID currently, I'm sure that several yoga studios are closing, that they're just not going to be able to make it through this, which is sad. And one of the studios I used to teach at, they decided they needed to close. And it's a great opportunity for being resourceful and creative. And some studios are offering a lot online. And so there's the opportunity that instead of trying to get students into a class and it being difficult, maybe they only charge $5 a class and they could get 100 students at a time joining. So there's a lot of opportunity here as well. And I also think being willing to put ourselves out there and provide free donation-based or completely free classes to community groups who don't have the financial resources to pay, I think that really puts positive energy out there to the universe to say, I'm willing to share this wonderful practice without receiving anything. And usually with an open, genuine heart, it's usually reciprocated some way or another. And my mentor, Joan Hartfield, told me that when I was wondering if we could afford to do our in-person training as times were getting tough. She said, you know, when I started, I just taught for free. I just gave it out. And she said, it doesn't matter how many students you have, how much money they've paid, give them your best as if you had a full classroom with everybody paying full, and just do it for them from your heart and it'll work out. And so I took her advice and I feel like so far so good.
It's just so amazing. I just love hearing all of that, just the manifestation of the universe and what it can do for you, and just truly believing in what you're putting out. I think when you believe in what you're doing, everyone else is going to believe it too.
I hope.
Well, continuing on with our questions.
Wonderful.
So with the returned Peace Corps volunteers, they may be dealing with some mental and emotional trauma from their experience. And that goes for a lot of people right now who are being affected by COVID and the current pandemic situation. So how can the practice of yoga help people who are processing a stressful continued experience?
I appreciate the question. And not just for Peace Corps volunteers, but all of us around the world. We're all going through some serious stuff right now. And Harvard Medical School released an article stating that they recommend yoga meditation for dealing with stress and anxiety, as well as the breath work. There's also, maybe people have heard of the Wim Hof method of breathing, and they actually have a scientific study that proves that their breathing technique, which is comparable to yoga's pranayama, controlling the breath, that it attenuates the parasympathetic nervous system and activates our immune system, strengthens it. So the parasympathetic nervous system is the more yin side of us, when we slow down and rest and just breathe and allow ourselves to just be. That's the part of our body that heals us while we sleep. The sympathetic nervous system is the part of our society and our bodies that's normally activated, the go, go, go. Let's do a power vinyasa flow. Let's work from 6 a.m. until 12 a.m. at night, and no time for rest. So, and that part's good too. And by breathing, slowing down, we're able to make sure we heal ourselves from the inside out. And so what I would recommend to anybody is especially beneficial right now for these Peace Corps volunteers who went through some trauma of being taken out of their sites and brought home and put in quarantine for 2 weeks and not even able to hug their parents whose house they were in for those 2 weeks in order to protect them from the exposure they had received by traveling on planes. And what I really like in my own practice, and I try to share with people, is to actually follow the 8 limbs of yoga, not just in life, but in a practice where we do a physical asana practice, maybe a strong flow that gets us sweating. Calm down the mind, then do some breathing exercises, very slow and mindfully, and then enter into a meditation, because now we've really quieted the body, gotten out any aches or pains. The breathing helps us to center, and then we can really go in and get a deep, deep release in our meditation. And for people who find meditation difficult, there's also yoga nidra, where we actually lay down and listen to a guided meditation that helps us to be between conscious, awake awareness and deep, restful sleep. And it's said that 1 hour of yoga nidra is equivalent to 4 hours of restful sleep. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, that was excellent. I loved how you dove into the 8 limbs of yoga, because yoga is often seen in the Western practice as just the asana. So I think it's really important to expose people to the other 7 limbs, especially the pranayama, and the breath work is, even while you are doing the asana, using the pranayama throughout is so important and so beneficial. I guess I'd like to ask you, would you like to go over the other limbs of yoga that we haven't covered and how that could potentially help anyone dealing with stress or trauma currently?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the lead in, Monet. So the first 2 limbs are the social and personal ethics, the guidelines that are recommended to help us live a happy and healthy life. Similar to the 10 Commandments or the Eightfold Path in Buddhism. And it helps us to remind ourselves to be in integrity. So it's non-harm, not lying, non-stealing, being grateful for what we currently have, taking care of our bodies and our possessions, and being willing to go through difficult, trying times in order to come out stronger and healthier afterwards, as well as reflecting on ourselves continuously and seeing how we can improve, while at the same time loving ourselves unconditionally along that path. So as we go through those 2 limbs, then into our asana practice, we gather strength, endurance, we get out any aches or pains that have come from Western society that sits a lot. So tight hamstrings, tight hips, that's very common now in Western society, not as much in Asia or India, where people aren't sitting in chairs or recliners quite as often. So after we've gone into our asana, the physical practice that people normally see at a yoga studio, then we can go into our breath work, which is essentially helping us to mindfully breathe consciously. From there, we go into pratyahara, the sense withdrawal. So closing down the ears, closing down the eyes, and we start going within to now step into the last 3 limbs of yoga, which essentially go into concentration and becoming absorbed in our meditation, to where the thoughts stop flowing in eventually. We're focused on just one object, and then eventually we lose the difference between myself and this object. And at that point, we end, or not end, but we come to the 8th limb, samadhi. So we find peace, and it can be equated similar to nirvana or bliss. So I try to teach this in my classes as well as the yoga training, as well as trying to live this in my everyday life.
Wonderful. I love that. I love all your descriptions and everything. And just utilizing all 8 limbs. It's so important, and I feel it's just not well known by a lot of people who practice the asana. And with the Returned Peace Corps volunteers, studying those 8 limbs with you and really getting a deeper understanding of yoga, if in the future they are able to return to their sites, which we hope be amazing, how would you like them, how would you like to see them utilize yoga?
Some have already said that they were practicing in sight to help relieve any anxious energy, to stay in shape, to relax a little bit. And now with this teacher training, I would love for them to develop yoga programs, the ones that I wanted to help them develop. And then hopefully donate yoga and myself could go actually to their sites and help them find the locations and find the people to come together and create these programs. So that's my ultimate dream, that they can take these teachings and pass them on to other people in their communities who then can keep it going for the years to come. So that's, may they go back to site and may they bring yoga with them and may the people there receive it.
Yes, that's absolutely the dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're sharing all the love with them so that they can go out and share it with everyone else, and it's phenomenal. So, when going through trauma and the stresses and a lot of the things that we've mentioned, not only the Peace Corps volunteers, but many people around the world are dealing with right now, um, we often turn to religion and a higher power to find relief and feel better. So, how does yoga help people feel more connected to their spirit or divinity?
Good question. And I think it's a hot question too. I grew up in a Christian background and I've seen people maybe a little hesitant, wondering if yoga is okay. Is yoga a religion? And the short answer that I believe in, at least, is that no, it's not a religion. And it does come from at least the version of yoga that I study, does come from a Hindu influenced culture. And so there are Hindu influences that I think enhance the yoga practice, but it's not a necessity. And what I have found and seen in other people is that yoga can help them to become more spiritual, whether or not they're religious. And if they are within their own religion, to feel more connected to their teachings and what they're studying and to whatever version of God or prophet that they personally believe in. So as I've gone within more and meditated, I have felt a deeper connection to the creator. And if we want to call it or him or her God, for me, that feels okay. For some people, the word God can be triggering. And so I usually recommend we could say Great Spirit, Mother Nature, Goddess, Divine Mother. And that goes back to the parable of the paths are many, truth is one. So there's many ways, many different religions, beliefs, paths, but essentially it's leading to the same destination of love. And that's what I've seen as I've studied other religions. I'm actually beginning a master's in religious studies at Naropa in August, hopefully. And it's really neat to see the similarities between a lot of these beliefs and religions. And again, yeah, for me, I love to help others feel comfortable with getting to know yoga a little bit better and helping them to see that they can still be a good Christian or Jew or Muslim and practice yoga. That it's okay to take care of our physical bodies. One of the teachers that I studied with studied with Iyengar, and he had a famous quote of, "My body is my temple, my postures are my prayers." So we're thanking the ability to even be alive and have this body by taking care of it. And some of us utilize yoga to do that. And I know in Buddhism, Christianity, that there's a lot of reference to sitting alone in nature and connecting with the higher spirit. To me, that's meditation. And that's the ultimate goal of yoga. Whether or not we ever even do the postures, the ultimate goal is to jump into meditation. Everything good on your end?
Yeah, sorry, just I don't know what I had an alarm set for. It just
I didn't hear it. So we'll see if it comes
okay,
through.
good. It really surprised me. I was
It
like,
was perfect timing. It was divine.
yeah, exactly. Read my mind. Um, well, I really appreciate you talking about yoga and religion. It was actually when I started class with you that I really got a better picture of it, because I think that's so important, because growing up and wanting to practice yoga, I was like, well, then I can't be a Christian like my mom. I have to be like a Buddhist or a Taoist, or, because I felt like those were more connected in some way. But as you said, and I love, 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 um, truth is one, paths are many. I love
Mm.
that.
Do you mind if I share the elephant story real quick?
Please, I love that story too.
That's when it really clicked for me, was in the first yoga teacher training I took. And essentially there's an elephant. Four blind sages approach the elephant. Each of them grab a different part of the elephant's body. One holding the trunk, one a tail, leg, and an ear. And they describe to the other sages what an elephant is and what it looks like. So the one holding the ear says, here's the elephant. It's comes out long and it's kind of floppy and it's got some bones in here. And to them, that's the elephant. The other one holds the tail and pulls it out and feels the hair at the end. No, this is what an elephant is. And essentially, the moral of the story is none of them are wrong, but also none of them are right until they combine all of those components together. Then they can actually come to what the full picture of an elephant is. And so I'll let the listeners out there make their own deductions from what that story could mean.
Yeah, I love that story. I've shared that with many people.
Awesome.
And I think that can go for plenty of things in life, not just religion. Even just a
Sure.
simple argument can be, return to that story and go, okay, yeah.
Right. Can we see it from somebody else's side as well? Can we objectively see where maybe I wasn't 100% accurate, or maybe I had a little bit of part to play in the argument?
Well, great. I don't really have many more questions for you about our specific topic of the Return Peace Corps volunteers, but love what you're doing, love the donate yoga message, love that I'm able to be a part of it now, and enjoying the team, enjoying the journey. It's been such a wonderful blessing in my life, and I too hope I can share yoga with as many people as possible.
Well, thank you, Monet. It's a pleasure having you as a student and now as a Donate Yoga ambassador, helping us out with the podcast. That's super cool. So far, I feel like we're making a great team. And I want to remind everybody what our mission is. It's to make yoga and wellness accessible to everybody, regardless of finances, location, age, or ability. And so my belief, our belief, is that we can share yoga and spread peace. And so with people like Monet, other students, we're gathering the tribe to create a global network of yoga and wellness professionals who want to share their skills with communities. And so what we will do with Donate Yoga is to help these yoga teachers, qigong teachers, massage therapists connect in their communities with groups who would benefit from this, who might be seeking assistance and support. And so if you want to see what we're up to, you could go to donateyoga.org. We're starting to rock our Instagram, so it's just @donateyoga. I think on Facebook, you just go to Donate Yoga. YouTube, probably Donate Yoga. So I appreciate everybody listening, and please share and like us however you can. And we're totally open to bringing more people into our family, and also open for areas we can improve on. My email is mark@donateyoga.org. So please feel free to reach out. And Monet, thank you so much. Is there anything you would like to add before we sign off about your experience or you or anything?
I'm just so grateful to be here and so grateful to have connected with you so long ago and, had that kind of taper off and then be brought back together because of this current situation. So just happy about the serendipity.
Right on. And yeah, it's nice to have plans and prepare and then be open to adapt and adjust as the world gives us different paths to take. And so I think we can all find areas, and it helps me a lot to find areas daily where I can be grateful, especially now. That of course there's some serious, very serious issues going on, and my heart goes out to anybody affected. And let's try to remember to find gratitude for a flower, for our breath. Sometimes it's easier than others, but it's nice when we have a tribe and a community to remind ourselves of it.
Yeah, I think gratitude is so important right now to reflect on. I think it says it on my calendar in the other room. It says, one grateful thought is the most beautiful prayer you could send to heaven. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And I have I grabbed this when we were talking about it. I don't know if you can see it, but it's my gratitude box. So
what goes into the box?
I just have a mini pencil and then little tiny pieces of paper, and then you just write down something you're grateful for and
Cool.
put it in the box, put it somewhere you want to look at it every day. But yeah, that's I love that you mentioned the practice of gratitude because it makes us better, it makes us kinder and happier, and I think it makes us whole.
Aho to that.
Uh-huh.
We'll include a couple of links to those articles I mentioned from Harvard as well as Wim Hof, and maybe we'll include that link to that wonderful video on Namaste from that pastor, the meaning of Namaste. And so the divinity in me recognizes the divinity in you, Monet, as well as to all the listeners. So thank you and Namaste.
Namaste.